welcome back to Coffee Shots. Today, you're going to get two for the price of one because I did not record one last Thursday. So, we are going to do two coffee shots today, so look for that. This coffee shot is going to be a little different than normal because it is a reaction video. We are going to cover an interview that CTV did with former Prime Minister Jean Chretien. It is a 13-minute interview. I have put the speed playback to 1.5 so that we keep my video down a bit in length. But let's get right into this interview. And it just really reminds me of the way liberals in Canada used to be. The way that they used to think. And it's really quite more the way progressive conservatives of today seem to think. Jean Chrétien, I've always liked him as a prime minister. I grew up watching him with my mom in political debates and all sorts of things, and I always liked him. I know he had some of his own scandals and whatnot, but I always did like his politics, the way he thought, and we're gonna get into why, and I'll show you why in this video. So let's get right into this. This is from CTV News. I will have the link to the original video so you can watch it without all the stops and starts if you so like to. So let's get into this.
Mr. Chretien, always a pleasure to have you on the program.
It's fun to be with you again.
Part of your legacy, as the Prime Minister, was your relationship with China, and it's a big part of the book. And you're critical about how Canada handled the two Michael situation. You write a lot about it.
So yeah, the reason this interview is happening is that Jean Chrétien did write a book recently. And I think it's going to be very critical of what's going on right now in Canada. And honestly, I might want to read it. I am getting a Braille display in the next few months, so I may, when I get that Braille display, I may read it, because that's not something I want to have in audio format. That's going to be something I'll want to read in Braille. So definitely, I think I will plan on reading that book and reviewing it. So keep an ear out and an eye out for that in the next few months.
Krista Freeland hasn't read the Canada extradition laws, and you said that the Trudeau government made a mistake, that they thought it was a legal situation, and you were giving advice that it was a political situation. Did Canada mishandle that situation?
You know, it's difficult to blame only the Canadian government. But when Trump, a few days after Madame Wong was detained, he said, if they solve it, well, if we have a deal on trade, we'll start. So that was a sign that had nothing to do with the law. It was, for him, in his mind, it was a business deal. It was a card that he was playing in his negotiation with the Chinese.
So now, for my American friends that are Trump supporters or that were, for Trump, and who are quick to call TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome, on this statement, this is not a blame Trump Orange Man bad statement. This is a blunt, true statement. Trump is a businessman, right? And Trump viewed a lot of the discussions and negotiations that he did as president as business deals instead of political actions. And this is what Chrétien is pointing out here. He's not going, read Trump bad. He's just saying, Trump's a businessman. And he saw this situation as another a business deal that he needed to do. And that the executive from Huawei was just another card to play in that deal.
He paid the price.
But Mr. Chrétien, the Trudeau government's view on this was they rejected your advice because they said your advice would reward hostage diplomacy. And wouldn't it?
You know, it's always very complicated. We were the victim of the government of America.
America.
Yes, United States forced us, and the government decided to go along with it because they thought that they had no choice. I thought they had a choice. But, they decide. For me, I gave my advice, and I do that I did all my life. I spoke up my mind on that. I was not alone. There was a lot of people who wrote a letter of the people of highest level in the legal minds in Canada had written a letter about it.
But were they right in the end? We didn't have to reward China's, the two Michaels got out.
But the problem is it was, it was resolved with exchange of prisoners as I proposed. And
Exactly. I'm gonna let him finish in a moment. But I fair use and all that. But he's right. The American government, when they wanted the Huawei executive, they did kind of force us to play ball with the Chinese, and we should have. It shouldn't have taken 3 years to get those two guys home. But we were too busy, us, and the Americans were too busy playing, business negotiations / politics with human lives. And, Chretien is a pragmatist. He's like, yeah, it's not necessarily an ideal situation that you want to be in, but sometimes you need to bite the bullet and do the not so fun, nice thing in order to, avoid worse, not so nice things.
There was a delay of 3 years. That was not needed. That's my views. They have the right to have a different view.
Right.
For me, I said that publicly.
Yeah.
And it's at that time, nobody noticed. Now I write about it because when I wrote these articles is when during the time, the date is there. Circumstance changes. Now I'm happy. It's over. I think it was a lot too long.
I'll ask you one last question on this, because it's a delicate political situation to both deal with a superpower, but also what's the line where you're appeasing them? The line between appeasement and constructive engagement.
Now, I usually don't like CTV. I find them very fluffy. I find them very biased. But I will say that this broadcaster, this reporter, is asking very good questions, and he's not being either negative or positive towards Mr. Chretien. He's just asking good questions and letting him answer, which CTV is not known for.
You have to see the situation and you use your best judgment. You cannot a priori conclude what you will say. There's all sorts of circumstances in different times that lead to different conclusions. And when you're prime minister or you're a government, you have to make difficult decisions. It's never white or black. So you have to decide and you live with the consequences. I made a lot of decisions during my 10 years as prime minister, in my government too, that a lot of people did not agree with us. And we did it.
Mr. Chretien, we are living through a time of reconciliation. You are the former Minister of Indian Affairs. You talk about it, obviously, in your book. Now there's the recovery of the unmarked graves at the residential institutions, as you know. I know that you were involved in the white paper. This is a big part of your life. A lot of folks say you and Pierre Trudeau should have shut down the residential school system then.
But he was... Okay, the last school was closed by Jean Chretien. So, he did. Pierre Trudeau, on the other hand, did not, and also allowed the 60s scoop to happen. So, I mean, sorry, sir, no.
Instead, what's your view of it now, and do you take any responsibility for that?
They were there since a long time. And, when the last one was closed by me when I was prime minister. We had to manage the problem at that time. Education was a very important thing for me. When I became the minister, there was only a dozen, I think, Indian people graduating from university. Thousands and thousands are graduating every year now. Education is the key. And in those days, in the isolated area, that was the system they had.
But they don't regard that as education. They regard it as cultural genocide.
No, but I'm telling you what is the situation. And we were not informed of any abuse at that time. So that was the situation. And for me, I offer.
And this is very important, what he's about to say here. And it's true. Unfortunately, the way things were set up at the time, even when people were trying to report the abuse, it wasn't getting to where it needed to go, right? The reports were not getting to the higher levels of government, to Jean Chrétien, where they needed to go. They were getting, like, they would be filed, obviously, people would try to talk to, lower people, and they would not get up to where they needed to go. And, so they dealt with the information that they had, and they acted accordingly, and they closed the last school, and what Jean Chrétien is about to say right now is incredibly important, and it is true what he's saying right here.
With my white paper, to abolish the Department of Indian Affairs, to abolish my job.
Yep.
And the Indian Act.
Yes. And now the people complain we have Indian Act. They refused that. I had to back down. Don't you remember that?
I do.
After consultation, when people were arguing that we had an apartheid system, having reserved for them an Indian Act and a Department of Indian Affairs and a Minister of Indian Affairs. I said, you're right. It is an apartheid system. I will abolish that. And the reply to me is going to be a cultural genocide.
That's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. He was told, look, this is an apartheid system. Look at this, and he went, holy shit, you're right. You know what? Let's get rid of it. And this was before he was prime minister. This was when he was the Minister of Indian Affairs, and he was like, you know what? You're right. Let's get rid of this whole thing. Let's get rid of my portfolio even. And they were like, no, cultural genocide. No. And now, 15, 20 years later, the Indian Act is here and still here and blah, blah. Like, dude,
Question on this. Justin Trudeau has apologized, as you know, for the situation.
But, I'm not here to talk about that.
No, but would you?
No, I'm not the Monday morning quarterback, okay? And I'm not the moderator. Ask me a question about...
Well, I wonder because you're...
Oh, Mr. Chretien, I missed you. Fuck, dude. I missed you so much. And he doesn't sound like I think he's 75. He sounds exactly the way he sounded when he was prime minister. Oh man, I missed you, dude. I missed you.
But have you been asked to apologize for any role in that?
Not that I remember.
And would you apologize?
Don't ask me. I didn't. It was not the problem. I were asked other things, but not by the natives on that. My preoccupation was not solving the problem of the past. It's nothing I can do. It was to build the future. And
Thank you. He's not saying that there aren't issues, right? What he's saying is, let's fix the issues that are here now and move forward to make things better for everyone. Not, let's focus on things that happened 100 years ago and flagellate and wallow. Let's acknowledge what's going on now and fix it constructively and move forward. God damn, this is what liberals used to be like, ladies and gentlemen. This is what liberals used to be like. And now this is what progressive conservatives are trying to be.
at that time, that was my concentration.
Mr. Chretien, this country has come through the pandemic, and we are in a financial situation that is unprecedented. When you became the prime minister, you also
We were in a mess, and we got out of it.
What advice does this, what do we learn from your time when we're in the same situation financially?
Every country of the world has this very difficult problem. And how they will manage it, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
Because it's completely different. But we will have to face it. The reality will hit and we'll face it. But they have no other choice. The Brits have done the same thing, the Americans, the French, the German, and how they will get out of it, it's all the thing that we did not believe. You remember the Socrates were proposing to create money.
Yes.
The Socrates of Real Kawet. I had to fight it. Now it's what we're doing. We're printing money like crazy.
Are you worried about that?
Yes.
Why?
Because, it's unusual. We're moving into a dark alley. But we'll have to go to the end of the alley.
Is it necessary to do it? They call it, the Fed printing money or quantitative easing, all these bank terms, as you know, as the former Minister of Finance. Are you worried about the inflation, the cost of doing this? Because there's a lot of folks that say, if we don't do it, we're toast.
They have no choice. But they knew that there would be difficult circumstances coming. And with the pandemic like we had, it was so unusual that they have done something that is unusual. A lot of...
Yeah, he's right. It is very unusual, but printing money, like, he's right. Once you start, you can't stop. You have to go to the end of the alley, so to speak. You've gone down this path now. You can't 180. This is the path and the choice that you've picked. You've got to finish it. That's basically what he's saying.
The economists, so-called expert, had to swallow very hard, recommending to do that.
Right.
But I'm not the prime minister. I'm not running the government. I had a good team with me, and we started in '93 in a terrible mess. And when we quit, the economists said Canada is cool. You remember they had put a moose with rosy glasses in the eyes, when I left, because we had become the example of the world. The UN.
He's not wrong. He is not wrong. When he became prime minister after Kim Campbell and Brian Mulroney's freaking ridiculousness, they inherited a mess. And by the time he left in 2003 and Paul Martin took over, we as a country were not only financially in the red, or in the black, sorry. We were, maintaining our world impression of a peacekeeping nation, but as a peacekeeping nation you didn't want to fuck with, right? And this is like, he was the guy that when George Bush went to Iraq with no sanction, like with no approval, and George Bush looked at us and was like, "Are you coming?" And Chretien was like, "No." And that's where that "you're either with us or against us" came from. And Chretien was like, "That's fine. You go play with your toys in the sand. We're gonna stay here and not do that." Like, yeah, we did have to go into Afghanistan, but I mean, that was not, like, I think that was a Paul Martin move. But still, this is, I love Chretien.
And used to proclaim Canada the best country in the world to live in when I was there.
Yep.
So with my team. So, I did it. I did what I had to do, and they do what they think they have.
In your book, you write about the referendums, the famous 2 referendums, I remember them well. But now in Alberta, and you write about Jason Kenney in the book, there's just been a referendum on the question of equalization. And he wants to get rid of the equalization formula. I should point out, as you know, that he was part
He
of
cannot do it. It's a waste of time completely. Because you need a change in the Constitution.
Yes.
And to do that, you need 7 provinces to agree.
Yeah.
Good luck.
But there's a sense of alienation. You think Jason Kenney's exploiting that?
When you're in Alberta, it is almost a culture.
Yeah.
Of complaining. I was there, but I would talk frankly with them. I had 5 members of parliament elected in Alberta.
Yeah.
Better than anybody else for 3 elections. And but they are not the one complaining. In Quebec they complain a bit, don't they?
Yeah.
In the Maritime, don't they complain? You live with that. In a system like that, I used to say this: if you're a mayor, you have a problem. What do? You blame the provincial government.
Yep.
If you're a provincial government, you have a problem. What do? You blame the federal government.
Yep.
So we cannot blame the Queen anymore. So once in a while, we blame the American. If you can touch.
Oh my god, I love this man. Oh my god. I fucking love this man. He's amazing. Oh my god. I love this guy. Guys, this is what when when Canadians talk about the 90s, right? This is why we miss the 90s, because we had this man. We had this man as our prime minister, and good God, like, oh my, this is the guy who somebody came up to try to assault him, and before his bodyguards could do anything, Chretien had punched him out.
The puck, it's not bad. It's a technique, but but the reality is, you're there. For me, the best thing to do is to put the puck in the net.
How did you know, and you write about it, 3 majorities. How did you know when to step aside? What was your moment where you said, I'm done? I mean, you'd served a long time, but it's hard to leave.
I had decided at the beginning I was to be there only for 2 terms.
Yes.
The proof of that is after my second election, I started to build my house on the Lac des Pilles in 1998.
Yep.
So it's because I was to leave the politics in 2001. And, and as you read in the book, Aline got a bit unhappy, and she said 4 more years, and she got a standing ovation from the staff, and including myself, and I ran the 3rd time. Why I wanted to quit? Because you have to know when to quit. But circumstances sometimes force you to stay. For me, we felt that I had to stay there. And happily, as I wrote in the book, we would have gone to war in Iraq. Because Harper gave a speech against me in New York because I'd said no to the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
And in the caucus, the group supporting Paul Martin were giving me difficulties because they were telling me that the Americans would punish us. But I did it anyway.
Yep.
And, but it was one of the reasons when I ran for the 3rd time, and it was my best.
Your relationship with the Queen and
He did a very good thing, I think.
Aline's relationship is pretty beautiful. She's just been in the hospital. She's 95. That's
Yes.
an extraordinary relationship you have. How did you get such a, what's your message to her now after your long years of a special relationship?
But to keep doing what she's done extremely well. She is a very solid person, and she understands her role well, and she is a pleasant person. And she liked to laugh too.
Yeah.
So, and she was speaking in French most of the time, and the Queen Mother too. Because the Queen Mother could not speak English before she was 5, she told us, because she has a nanny who was French. And
I could picture her and Jean Chretien, like just that dry humor from the both of them. I could see it. I could see them being good friends. I really could. I could just being a fly on the wall listening to those conversations. I would love it.
So when we arrived, Aline and I, the Queen Mother would come and talk to us to practice her French. And I made a joke that the Queen was speaking in French with me because she could not stand my English. So we had fun, and she was very gracious. She gave me the Order of Merit, and I'm thankful because it's according to the film Crown. When she gave the Order of Merit to Margaret Thatcher, she said to her, "Don't forget that this order is selected by me personally."
Yes.
So I'm still thankful.
Mr. Chretien, congrats on the new book. Thank you for your time, as always. It's a pleasure to see you, sir.
And that's the interview, my friends. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. I really, I wanted to highlight for you guys, especially my American friends and maybe my younger Canadian subscribers. This is what the older Canadians are talking about when we talk about the Liberals, how they used to be. Just common sense thinking. None of this, blaming and victimization and printing money. Like, this man embodies what the Liberals used to be and what they used to stand for. And I just wanted to highlight that for you guys. Thanks for watching, and remember, there will be another coffee shot today. It is October 26th, so remember, Wednesdays with Skep on October 27th at noon. Join me then. Have a great day, guys.